Okay, as a professor of mine was fond of saying, let's not punish the people who are on time. So let's go ahead and get started. And thank you for attending. This is the Triangle Trails Initiative session. We have with us Chuck Flink and Sarah Sanford. Chuck is a longtime Greenways advocate who has a very wonderful career being out front with this process that we are in the midst of now, but he was the early advocate. And Sarah has come on with the East Coast Greenway Alliance and is coordinator for their North Carolina, Virginia segments. And I'll get out of the way and let them dive in. Chuck and Sarah, thank you very much for being with us.
Bart, thank you. And thanks all of you for attending our session this morning to talk about the Triangle Trails Initiative. This is an idea that has been slowly hatching in our region for many, many years. And, kudos to folks like Iona Thomas and Sig Hutchinson and Dennis Marcado Soriano and John Hodges Koppel and many, many others who really put the pedal to the metal and said, let's get going on this. We're a region that has a long history of Greenway development. Some of the oldest Greenway systems in North Carolina are in the Triangle region. But we've trailed both the Carolina Thread Trail and the Piedmont Legacy Trails in coming together and forming a regional coalition to really promote and market the value of our greenways throughout the region. We're very fortunate to have been to partner with the East Coast Greenway Alliance, which has provided us an umbrella under which we could incubate this organization, and so grateful to the A.J. Fletcher Foundation for their initial grant that really got us up and running. And Sarah and I are going to walk you through the essentially the process that we've gone through this year and really prior, because we started in 2019 and we hit 2020 with the idea that we were going to make a little bit more progress on this, but of course, COVID has interrupted so many plans in that regard. What we've witnessed is what Brett was referring to in the opening session, that trails and greenways in the Triangle region have become a refuge landscape for, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people in our region. We're seeing that same sort of record use that Brett was talking about across our system. Our regional system, which is the regional system in the Triangle area, and I'll define what we mean by triangle in just a minute, but we're probably between 300 and 400 miles of constructed trails. So we have a lot of trail on the ground, and these greenway landscapes have been so important. And this is just some of the reporting from the Raleigh area, but it's typical for us to see 200 to 300% increase year over year in greenways during this period of time, and for all the reasons that Brett so adequately addressed in his opening remarks. I would say, for years and years, we've really known about the connection between the benefits of trails and health. We've been promoting that for many decades here in North Carolina and really around the United States. And I think it's only been in the last, say, 10 to 15 years where we've really gained a lot of traction in that, and we've begun to see health and wellness dollars flow directly from health and wellness organizations into greenway development. But we're a region that's got a big tech and pharma industry, and it's sort of been a natural alliance for us to see those benefits translate directly into trail development. And we're not only talking about the physical wellness of residents of the Triangle region, but also their mental wellness. And that's been a couple of focuses that we've been trying to really emphasize with respect to forming a regional trails and greenway organization. The other added emphasis that I would talk about this morning is that while there's been so much angst over ethnicity and racism, and well-deserved in this country, I feel like greenways have been a place where we do celebrate culture and diversity. And I'll just say, I think if you think about what makes America great, in my opinion, is the fact that we are the melting pot of all these different cultures and these different ethnicities from around the world. and Greenway's become this great landscape where we can celebrate that. We can provide groups with an opportunity to express themselves in an environment that's really free of charge. But we also meet those functional needs of people who depend on Greenways for daily activities, walking to school, biking to work, and engaged in all kinds of other activities. So those have all been things that we've kept in mind as we've formed up this organization. So just in a nutshell, the TriangleTrails initiative, our mission is, and where we're sort of coming from is the collaboration between government, business, institutions, and civic leaders to make our region a national leader in greenways and trails. I mean, as I said, we have had some of the oldest systems, municipal systems on the ground in North Carolina and really in the Southeast and around the country. And it's sort of been, putting all those systems together in this regional effort. We've come up with this tagline, connecting people with communities and investments that keep us active and engaged with nature and neighborhoods. And so it's something that we feel is vital to do at this point in time, especially with COVID. And we've had a lot of success in sort of taking this out and about, even during the midst of this pandemic, which has been very challenging, and promoting the formation of this regional partnership. So when you think of the Triangle and you think of it in a traditional sense, we would have the counties of Orange and Chatham and Durham and Wake certainly come to mind when people think of the Triangle, but also includes Johnston, Lee, and Moore. Now that's the Triangle J Council of Governments regional definition of the Triangle. And we started with that more than 2 years ago. We started with this footprint and thought about who else might be interested in such an initiative and whether they would want to join the process. And what we've wound up, very organically, we've wound up with a 14 county regional footprint. So we have added the northern 4 counties along the Virginia border, Person, Granville, Vance, Warren, and we added Franklin because that abuts Wake County. And then to the south, we've definitely added Harnett County into this mix. And we've added Chatham County, but we're also in conversations with Cumberland County about having them join as well. So we're very excited about the size of the initiative in terms of its footprint and the potential impact that will have on creating a regional system. What I think is maybe the most remarkable achievement, and we'll get into this just in more detail in just a minute, is the fact that we've been able to reach out and have conversations in the midst of this pandemic with all of these 14 counties, and 12 of them to date have adopted resolutions of support for the TriangleTrails initiative. This is pretty significant to me because it really shows the strength of the vision and the purpose of Greenways. And a lot of these are the adoptions have come from rural counties. So the rural counties have told us, we've had a chance to meet with the county commissioners and the county managers, how important greenways are from a standpoint of economic development for them. And being associated with the Triangle in any way, shape, or form is also a very important end product. So we've had a lot of success to date. Despite the pandemic, we'll talk about other activities that we've been engaged in as we go through the presentation this morning. Here's just a couple of those resolutions of support. I've had a chance to be on hand for a couple of these in person, despite the pandemic and the restrictions. And every one of these resolutions has been supported unanimously. There has not been any county or any county commissioner who has said no to the stated goals and objectives of this. And we'll talk a little bit more detail about the relationship of all that as we go through. The one point I wanted to make about our region, and we're one of the late comers to the game here, but Carolina Thread Trail's been around for more than 15 years, and Piedmont Legacy Trails has been around for about 7 years, and now we're coming along. But when you put all these together, what's so exciting to me is that we have 38 counties essentially in central North Carolina that are all going to be represented by regional Greenway organizations, regional Greenway and Trails organizations. And that's really, really exciting. And I think it plays into, in my opinion, what's going on with the Great Trails State Initiative. And so to talk more about both the Great Trails State Initiative and the and the work that's going on in our counties, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and let her walk us through the aspects of the Great Trail State and its impact on our regional Greenway system. So Sarah, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Chuck, and good morning, everybody. Thank you again for being here. As Chuck said, I'll be talking more in depth about how our efforts connect to the Great Trails State Plan, and then our specific work within each of the 14 counties in the Triangle Trails Initiative. So the Great Trails State Plan, many of you have heard of at this point, I think. That's actually one of the other sessions that's going on today that you can check out. And the Great Trails State Plan is an effort that's led by North Carolina DOT, but it's an idea that's been floating around for quite a while, and a number of folks from different sectors in North Carolina have helped to bring this effort to fruition. And I think everybody's pretty excited about it. Next slide, please. So the main idea with the Great Trails State network and the plan is connecting all 100 counties across North Carolina with shared use paths. And so you can see we have this draft network map here that's mapping out both existing and proposed trails in each county across the state. And we should note that this plan is focused on those shared use paths. So not so much the single track hiking trails or paddle trails, but the shared use paths. So right now the team is wrapping up getting this draft network together and moving into 2021, putting towards the plan of implementing the Great Trails State Plan. And as we've talked about before, and as everyone in the trails world knows, the timing actually is great. As the pandemic and COVID has shown, trails are a necessary resource, and we don't all have equal access to these trails. So really now is absolutely the time to be looking at linking all these counties together with trails. Next slide, please. And of course, this ties in so well with our work on the Triangle Trails Initiative, where we're looking at a smaller focus area. How do we tie together each of the counties in the Greater Triangle region with these trails? And you can see what we have here is our concept map of the Triangle Trails Initiative geographic area. You can see the 14 counties. And then if you take a look at the legend, that teal line, that is the Great Trails State Network. So again, those are both proposed and existing trail networks. The bright green line is the East Coast Greenway, and then that brown line is the Mountains to Sea Trail. So taking it from the statewide perspective of Great Trails State down to the regional triangle geographic area here. Next slide. So a few statistics on the Triangle Trails Initiative. Again, 14 counties, 5 of which have adopted their Greenway and Trails plans, and 2 are currently underway. And we have an incredible amount of existing greenways and trails within the Triangle. And there's also a lot that's proposed or in the planning, engineering, design stages. What's special about the Triangle is that it's the intersection of 2 statewide trails, both the Mountains to Sea Trail, which runs east-west across the state, and then the East Coast Greenway, which runs more north-south through the state. And another point we like to brag about, especially with my work at the East Coast Greenway Alliance, is that the Triangle is home to the longest off-road segment of the entire East Coast Greenway. So East Coast Greenway runs Maine to Florida, and the Triangle is really, really our gem. So running from just north of Durham, going through South Durham and Cary and Raleigh and east over to Clayton, we have just over 70 miles of continuous off-road greenway. So this is trails like the American Tobacco Trail, the White Oak Creek Greenway, the Neuse River Greenway, all connect together to make 70 miles. So it's really quite a special area for trails in general. And there's a lot on the ground, but there's also a lot of work to do in terms of getting more trails on the ground and helping counties figure out how do we plan these trails. So part of our job at Triangle Trails Initiative is working with these counties to figure out, like I said, how we get these trails on the ground, how we bring these resources to communities who don't have it yet but need it, and how to start the process of planning it all out and creating this triangle-wide vision. Next slide, please. So I'm going to briefly go through county by county, all of the 14 Triangle Trails Initiative counties, and we'll talk about the current status of each county and briefly touch on a signature greenway. So by current status, I mean, does this county have some type of greenway, bike ped plan in place? Which, as those of us in the trails world know, is really an accomplishment that signals that this county has prioritized trails and greenways. And then the signature greenway, I do want to note it's not the only greenway in that county. It's just one that we picked to highlight for this presentation. So we'll go ahead and start going through each county, starting with Chatham County. So Chatham County has their 2018 countywide greenway plan. Pittsburgh has its own greenway plan, and their signature trail is the incredibly beautiful Hall River Greenway, which I'm sure many of you have explored before, and great views of the river on there. Cumberland County, general Fayetteville area, home to both the East Coast Greenway, Mountains to Sea Trail. 2006, they passed their countywide parks plan. Fayetteville has its own greenway plan, and a signature greenway is the Cape Fear River Trail, which actually got a lot of attention in the news this summer. So props to the Cape Fear River Trail. Durham, of course, home to many trails. 2010 passed the Durham County Greenway Plan. The city of Durham has its own greenway plan, and signature trail is, of course, the American Tobacco Trail. Franklin County has the County Parks and Recreation Master Plan completed. The County Greenway Plan is not yet complete. Signature Greenway is the Lewisburg Bike Path pictured here. Granville County up north, 2011 passed their countywide greenway plan. And what's interesting is that each of these municipalities listed here has their own plans, which is great. And their signature greenway is the East Lion Station Road Greenway, pictured in the photo here. Harnett County. Harnett County has a greenway plan underway right now, which some of you are probably involved in. And amazing signature greenway, Raven Rock State Park Trail, which has been quite crowded during the pandemic, I can tell you that. Johnston County is next. Another county that is doing their greenway plan right now as we speak. And then Smithfield has its own greenway and trail plan. Signature Greenway, which is another one that's gotten a lot of attention in the news recently, is the Neuse River Trail, which passes through Smithfield. Lee County is next. Yet to be completed is their greenway plan. The city of Sanford has a greenway and trail plan. And then the signature greenway pictured here is the Ender Iron Furnace Greenway. Moore County also will be hopefully working on the greenway plan in the future. Southern Pines and Pinehurst have adopted their own greenway plans. And then the signature greenway is Nicks Creek Greenway in Southern Pines. Orange County, again, completed their greenway plan. Chapel Hill and Hillsborough have their own greenway plans. And the signature greenway is the Hillsborough Riverwalk with amazing views of the Eno River. Person County is up next. Another county where they will hopefully in the future be working on their countywide greenway plan. Roxborough is doing some great work to complete trails and greenways. Signature greenway that exists right now is the Timberlake Trail, otherwise known as the Roxborough Rail Trail. Vance County will be, again, hopefully working on their countywide greenway plan, and signature greenway is the Carr Lake Trails pictured here. Wake County, everyone knows about Wake County. They have a great greenway system plan that was completed. There are 12 total municipalities that have adopted their own greenway plans. And of course, the Capital Area Greenway System, one of the oldest in the country, and Neuse River Greenway. Visit Raleigh just put out a great article about that one. Check it out if you haven't yet. Coming towards in here, Warren County has their countywide Parks and Rec plan, the Greenway plan, hopefully completed in the future, and then Signature Greenway is the Buck Trail.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for that overview. And we wanted to do that just to give you a sense that we're at a starting point. I loved Brett's overview this morning of how advanced everything is. And hopefully one day we'll have that kind of report to share with you. And thanks to great work of Sarah and really a really large volunteer team that we have here in the region, we've been trying to do public engagement. I would actually tell you that we're about a year ahead of where we thought our program was going to be with respect to launching the initiative. And that was made possible because we were able to get some additional funding that came in from the Research Triangle Park Foundation, which I'll talk about a little bit later. As a result of that funding, we were able to bring Sarah on, and then I've stayed on. We're both sort of what we call interim staff, but it's enabled us to get out and participate in these county commission meetings. Also, we've had a number of face-to-face meetings, and on that, I just want to call out Sig Hutchinson, who's been just an incredible leader. Many of you know Sig, Mr. Green Jeans. His level of enthusiasm is contagious, and his access and his knowledge of people is awesome as well. So not only have we been able to have lots of one-on-one meetings or Zoom calls with different people around the region, but also we've been able to access our potential funders in that regard as well. We've also instituted an advisory board, and we've had a technical committee that's actually predates certainly my involvement and Sarah's involvement in this work. So we've been keeping those people in the fold as we move along. And again, thanks to Sarah, we've launched a Facebook page. So we hope that you will go to Facebook, just search Triangle Trails Initiative, and then please click like and also click the follow and pay button, and you'll be able to keep up with us as we continue to grow the initiative through the end of this year and through 2021. So we're really excited about what the future has in store. We haven't done a lot of direct ourselves because we're just in the startup phase, marketing and promotion, but we benefit from the fact that there is so much marketing and promotion that's going on in our region. And Sarah mentioned the longest continuous stretch of Greenway in the region, and really one of the longest, if not the longest, urban stretches in North Carolina, the 70-mile trail that spans Durham and Wake counties. This was a feature on North Carolina Weekend. In this episode is 1721 if you're interested in checking it out. I think that Sarah actually provided a link to it on our Facebook page. So if you'd like to watch it, it's beautifully done. And this is a part of the trail that Sarah mentioned, part of that 70-mile trail that includes the American Tobacco Trail and the White Oak Greenway and all the way through downtown Raleigh. And it is a fabulous greenway. So if anybody who's watching today is looking for, a fun weekend activity to do, even during COVID, come on up and, find a place to roost, and then bring your bikes and you can ride this fabulous greenway, which is the majority of now, which is off-road. There's only a couple little sections which are on-road. And actually, Sig Hutchinson and I participated in a birthday bike ride with Willie Stewart of Stewart and a bunch of his friends and colleagues. We went for a bike ride along that this summer, and it was really fabulous to see how connected that whole system is. And of course, I know this is the goal of all of our regional greenway systems in North Carolina, whether it's the Thread Trail or Piedmont Legacy Trails. We all like the opportunity to think about these long distance routes that are connected. Brett mentioned it in his opening about the Little Sugar Creek Greenway in the Carolina Thread Trail region. So it's really fun to put these things together. And they're really the cobbling together of a lot of local trails, essentially. So our advisory board has been awesome. We instituted this back in 2019. Sig Hutchinson is the chair of our board, but we have great representation from the private sector and the public sector. We have Dennis Mercado Soriano in there with the East Coast Greenway Alliance, Iona Thomas, who's making a presentation right now, We have county commissioners. We have David Proper with the Conservation Fund. It's really great. And we're going to continue to grow the membership of this advisory board as we continue to expand both the footprint and the impact of the regional Greenway system. What we're doing with the advisory board right now, and I would say to you that we're in this incubation phase. So we're more or less an ad hoc group. We don't have a nonprofit status at this point in time. And we're asking the advisory board to essentially give us strategic advice, to assist us in identifying additional partners, and also to help us raise funds for the organization and to find our brand. Now, you'll notice that there's been a logo that you're seeing in the lower right corner of the slides here. This logo was developed by Jason Reyes of Alta Planning and Design. We're so grateful for Jason's contributions. We're calling it for now the Interim Logo and brand, but it may turn into the permanent logo and brand. We're sort of just allowing things to evolve as they evolve. But the advisory board has been so key in helping us to get there. And then we're backstopped by a lot of other supporters in our region, folks who are involved in greenways and trails at the local level, as well as Smith Rayner, who's been a great friend to us in the Triangle region with so many different efforts that we've got going on. So it's really just an incredibly deep team of people who are very experienced in getting greenways and trails on the ground. Hopefully what we'll do with this initiative going forward is we're sort of focused on 4 areas: plan, build, use, and promote. Those are our activity areas. And so this ideation, this visioning where we are right now, we're getting up and running. Sarah mentioned our opportunity to provide technical assistance. One of the questions that's been most asked by all the counties who've voluntarily joined, this initiative is, how can we help them and get their Greenway master plans or Greenway projects off the ground? And we realize that in North Carolina, even though we are a great trail state and there's so many resources, on a sort of a problem by problem or project by project basis, our counties are looking for somebody to turn to really help them answer, simple questions or complex questions. And so the TriangleTrails initiative wants to be that clearinghouse of information eventually. Because we also have so many greenways and trails on the ground, we're hoping to turn the focus of what we do from planning and building greenways to how they're used. And I really love the model that the Carolina Thread Trail has established in that regard. I think the partnerships that the Thread Trail has established with its corporate community and its municipal partners across their region is a great model for us to emulate in terms of offering those events and those programs, those educational opportunities. And I think one of the main thrusts of the TriangleTrails initiative is this opportunity to do advocacy and outreach and engagement. So we have a great system that's on the ground, and I think we're really in the business of trying to promote that system more so than having to build it out. So our activities are sort of in those categories, those 5 categories of advocacy, outreach, engagement, marketing, and communications. And then we also are looking at technical assistance. The map that Sarah has developed is the very start of that. Fundraising is very important to our member counties, events and programmings and educational events. So those are the kinds of activities that we look forward to establishing and providing as part of what the initiative will do. As I mentioned, in the interim, Sarah and I have sort of stepped in more or less consulting roles to get this up and off the ground. As Iona Thomas said to me one day in one of our very initial meetings, Chuck, it's nobody's job in the Triangle region right now to get this thing up and running. So it's now kind of the job is Sarah and mine, along with our advisory board and our technical committee. So we feel really good about the progress we've made in 2020 despite the pandemic, and we're looking forward to even more progress in 2021. But our goal is long term is we hope to have the funding in hand to hire an executive director and the additional support staff. I don't know that we'll get to the level of where the Carolina Thread Trail is, which we admire very much. And we've certainly looked at regional trail and greenway organizations all across the country. And as you might imagine, the level of staffing, the level of funding really varies tremendously. But we do want to have somebody whose job it is every single day to pay attention to the opportunities and the activities of the Triangle Trails Initiative and to really help out. So that's something that we're working towards and is part of our fundraising goal. So speaking of fundraising, we have this has been challenging. It's incredibly challenging to go out and raise funds in this environment, and I think Brett spoke about that as well. You know, it's difficult to run programs, it's difficult to run events, so your fundraising is very limited in that regard. It's been one of the big questions that we've gotten from our counties is when we've gone to them and they've adopted resolutions of support, almost every single county commission has asked us, you know, well, what do we need to do in terms of financially participating? And we've basically said we're not, you know, the operations of the Triangle Trails Initiative is not going to be on the backs of the counties or the municipal governments. We're going to make every effort to raise funds privately and raise funds, hopefully long-term, through events and programs that will sustain the operations of the Triangle Trails Initiative. So we're not actually asking for local government contributions at all to the operations of the initiative. And that's something that we hope to remain true to throughout the organization's existence. We're initially trying to raise about $500,000 of private sector funding, and that $500,000 would be spread out over a three-year term, which I'll show you the chart in just a minute. We were very fortunate right before. I remember Sig and I sitting with Scott Levitin at the Research Triangle Park Foundation offices in March of this year. It was early March, and it was literally before the massive shutdowns began to happen all across our state and across the United States. And Scott was the first one, and the foundation was the first one to say, we love this idea. We think it's awesome. We want the Research Triangle Park to be the center piece of this regional greenways initiative, regional greenways and trails initiative. We want all trails, you know, essentially leading to the park, which is really great. So he was very gracious in making the first charter fund pledge of $100,000. Which we've already collected on the first year of that this year, and that funding really helped us immensely to have a very successful 2020. We have a second conditional pledge from the Raleigh Visitors and Convention Bureau. As everybody knows, travel and tourism is probably the hardest hit industry in America and really around the world. And that's true in Wake County and in Raleigh with our Visitors and Convention Bureau. But the board felt so strongly about the promise and the hope of this vision that they said, you know, why don't you allow us to make a conditional pledge? We can talk about, you know, when we collect on that pledge, you know, in 2021, hopefully by then the economy will have recovered better. But we are so grateful for the support of Visit Raleigh NC. And we look forward to partnering with them and hosting a lot of events and programs in the future. Sig Hutchinson and I have been busy throughout this year. We have made a number of different presentations. We've had in-person meetings with potential funders. We're grateful for all of the opportunities that we've had to put this message in front of different organizations and different agencies. You know, there's not been anybody who has told us this is an awesome idea. They all love it. But, you know, actually getting those pledges has been very difficult. And a lot of it is because the economy has been in full reverse for many sectors. And it's difficult for people to sort of forecast any sort of pledge of support, financial support, while they're watching, you know, money stream out the door in another way. But we're hopeful to line up a few more pledges here. We're in active conversations with several different organizations. We have some commitments that are being considered, and hopefully in 2021 we'll line up a few more. And then as we forecast long term, we're hoping to raise about $1.5 million of additional support to fund our program and our operations. So this is what our chart looks like so far. We have the firm pledge from the Research Triangle Park Foundation, which we've already received the year one gift on. And then we have the conditional pledge from Visit Raleigh. And then we're in conversations with 3 additional funder groups to line up additional pledges. We're optimistic that as we turn the corner on 2021 and with the vaccines out there and being rolled out, there's a lot of different forecasts for when those vaccines are going to be, hitting the street and vaccinating folks. And so, we think that people's economies will pick up, and we know that there's a lot of support for the initiative in that regard. One of the things that we're hopeful to do with the money is sort of a little bit of what Carolina Thread Trail has been doing throughout its existence, is to match contributions from local governments towards the development of greenways. The very first matches that we're looking to do would be to make sure that all 14 counties have adopted greenway plans. So as Sarah defined, we have 7, essentially 5 that have done adopted plans and 2 that are underway. And we have had conversations with the remaining counties that don't have adopted greenway plans, and they would like to achieve that. So we're looking to create a match, a financial match that would encourage those counties to complete greenway plans. We think that's a really great initial step forward. And then where we can support trail construction, we would do that through technical assistance, maybe more so than financial assistance going forward. So with that, that's our presentation, and we would love to entertain any questions that you all would have of us. What I'm going to do is stop my screen share so that we can kind of see everybody. And we appreciate you guys attending our session this morning. And we would welcome any questions through chat that you want to throw our way. And anything that we didn't have a chance to clarify as we were working our way through the presentation. I see some familiar names on here, Smith Rayner and Gretchen Smith and Tim Brown, folks that we've known for quite a while. But any question is a valid question for us. So what questions do you have of us?
I'll start. Excuse me, this is Bart. And 2 things. One is, please do post questions in either the Q&A or the chat. But secondly, I would just note, Chuck, one of our best leverage points, I guess is the way to say it, is the promise of economic development. And since we've got a good bit of trail on the ground, we can show that economic development around the trails. Have you had any traction with that?
We have, and I would say that that's our #1 leverage point. And we're fortunate in that we have so much that's been built and so much that's been studied in our region. It's very easy for us to pull a study literally that's been completed. And we have several. We have studies that have been done for the American Tobacco Trail. Alta Planning and Design did a study of Triangle Region as part of regional studies across the state. We have a lot of really good, and also because we have great built constructed elements of the Greenway, we can actually point to different trail segments and talk about what those economic impacts have been. But to the point of leverage, every single county commission that we've been in front of and have had a chance to talk with, they have brought that up, that they feel like that's the most important reason for them to get involved. One of the most recent conversations we had was with Person County, and Sarah mentioned the Roxborough Rail Trail, the Timberlake Trail, and we were just at that. Sig Hutchinson and I were just at that county commission meeting earlier in November, around November 16th, I believe. And we didn't even have to bring it up. One of the county commissioners brought it up and said that, in supporting the resolution, adopting the resolution of support, said that, the most important thing to him was the promise of economic development, that being a part of the region would be welcoming a greenway into Person County, the need to diversify the rural economy in that regard. So we agree, Bart, that's probably our #1, big leverage point of getting these resolutions to support and building out the regional greenway system. And Sarah, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, because I know that East Coast Greenway has been doing a lot of work on the economics of greenways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you did a great job of covering it, Chuck. And the only thing I'll add is that when it comes to economic development, well, there's so many benefits of trails, the health benefits, the environmental benefits, community building, all of that. But I think economic development is the one thing that applies to everybody. So whether you're a county commissioner or you're just a citizen, a resident who lives near the trail, you care about economic development where you live. And so I think that's a huge reason to focus so much on that, is because it applies to everyone and it benefits everyone. When you are able to achieve economic development, it's benefiting both the people who work, live, play, visit that county. So yeah, all encompassing.
I'm going to read these questions since all this is being recorded. Has Triangle Trail Initiative focused on ordinances, local ordinances, as a tool for towns and cities to enhance your greenway development and funding?
We will. And I'm glad you brought that up. So like I said, I think we're fortunate in a way that 2020 became a really a bonus year for us, because we were thinking we would get underway more formally in 2021. And so the funding from the foundation allowed us to, get off the ground a little early. And we've used this year, obviously with all the limitations with COVID, to try to strengthen our partnerships, get our counties signed up and all that. But going into 21, and our technical assistance program, that's one of the areas we're going to look at. We're going to look at a few things, where we can get more adopted plans to happen in our region, where we have communities that are building greenways and trails that might need some technical assistance in that regard. And then this question of ordinances that would maybe make the level of playing field in terms of the opportunities to build out greenways. Interestingly enough, one of the issues that's come up to me, has been brought to my attention, is this issue of electric bikes and in the area of ordinance. I think people would like to see some sort of uniform adoption of rules and regulations regarding electric bikes. I mean, they technically are powered, but the benefit is that they would open our usage numbers to more people with some physical limitations that could get out and use our greenways. So we're definitely looking at that technical assistance area as one of the real great benefits of establishing the initiative, and helping us to create uniform policies, across the entire region.
Chuck or Sarah, there's a follow-up. This is from Ken Sanborn, but can anyone recommend a specific ordinance as a model?
In which is there a specific topic for the ordinance?
This was essentially the ordinances to encourage greenways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a follow-up. Sorry, follow-up to the question you were just answering.
I think that the issue about ordinances that permit the development of greenways would be in a couple of areas. One would be where you want to create opportunities through land acquisition. And actually, I feel like, Cary has one of the best ordinances for land acquisition and ways of obtaining right-of-way of any community anywhere in the country. And I know Tim Brown probably had a role in that, but we've been touting Cary's ordinance structure from the right-of-way perspective, because oftentimes if you don't have the right-of-way, you're not going to build the greenway. So that's the essential building block. And Cary has a really good model ordinance in that regard. I know that Raleigh also is looking at ordinances that would encourage the commercial sector and the commercial industrial business sector to better participate in how Raleigh's greenway system gets built out. There are Supreme Court rulings on that sort of create the essential nexus that you have to develop in order to have ordinances that apply to land conservation and opening up these rights-of-ways for greenways. So that's one ordinance structure. I don't know if that's what that person is referring to, but oftentimes when you're talking about, creating better paths to getting greenways on the ground, it's going to start with getting land. So that would be the response there.
And this next one's from Eric Melville, and I'll actually take the first shot at this because it is directed at the thread trail. I appreciate you sharing the status of counties within TTI region. Any idea how many of the 15 counties in the Carolina Thread Trail have countywide greenway plans? And let me answer that and also talk about ordinances and let you and Sarah do a follow-up on it.
You got it, Bart.
all of the 15 counties in our region adopted plans that are specific to our system, but they also often have an overlay, and some of those are overlays that require developers when conducting a new development to put in trails. And so some of them have been very aggressive about it, others much more laissez-faire. But all of the counties in our system have adopted a Greenway plan about how they're going to connect some of their trails to other parts of the Carolina Thread Trail network.
Yeah, you know, Bart, I think what, you know, we Brett and Sarah and myself and Palmer McIntyre, we had our very first sort of get together, and I think we're going to have more of them in 2021 because we're realizing that we've got these, you know, these three regions, and I think there are other regions, by the way, in North Carolina. I think there's if I have this right, I think is it called the rattlesnake, or there's a region up in Asheville, Buncombe County also that's coming together. So where I'm going with this is I think one of the great things that we could do is just begin to have those meetings to say, hey, what resources, what tools do you guys already have that you're using that we may not be aware of, that we could begin to collect and put together a library of information, you know, that our counties and our municipal governments could have access to. That's one area of technical assistance that our counties and the conversations that we've had, that Sarah and I have been having with some of our municipal partners, has said that would be so helpful, you know, because part of the problem is there is an answer out there, but where do I even go? Where do I start? And oftentimes people get directed to American Trails or Rails to Trails Conservancy and their vast libraries, but sometimes that's not very specific to, say, a county or municipality in North Carolina. So one of the things I hope that we can do is to continue to meet with Brett and Palmer and others throughout our state, and begin to maybe, you know, put that library together in a digital way, and then make that information available so that people can, you know, look at those examples and adapt them for their counties and their municipalities.
Smith Rayner notes, and this is fun because I get to say a word that I really enjoy. Western North Carolina is starting the Hellbender network. Hellbender,
thank you, Smith. I knew it was something along those lines. I know it's a lizard, right? Thank you for that. Yeah, the Hellbender. So we need to get in touch with them as well and make them part of our sort of confab here. You know, the other thing I'd like to point out, and I'm not trying to get into politics, but I think that, you know, politics is obviously something that is on the forefront of everybody's mind with what we've been through in 2020. This is a non-political sort of subject. This is a bipartisan subject. I think when you look at what happened with the Great American Outdoor Act, you know, probably arguably the greatest piece of legislation that's been passed in 30 to 40 years in American history. Greenways respond, no matter if you classify yourself as an R or a D or a red or a blue. I think everybody understands the benefits of Greenways, and that gets back to that notion of economic benefit, economic development. People are trying to create jobs, they're trying to create more opportunities for their communities to succeed, and you know, Greenways are a great way of doing that. So we have benefited from that bipartisan support, and you know, we have a mixture of red and blue counties, if you will, in our region, but they all come together really uniformly when we talk about developing an interconnected network of greenways and trails. And I just wanted to point that out because I think it's important that we continue to emphasize that, especially with our Great Trails State Initiative and going forward to our General Assembly when we're talking about 100 counties. You know, we're not homogeneous in terms of our politics here in North Carolina, but I think we are when we talk about our love for the outdoors and how valuable those outdoor resources are to people, no matter where they live in North Carolina. So this is a great building block for us going forward in terms of promoting this.
I would ask one other thing of Sarah and Chuck, which is that we have found, because so many of our trails follow creek and river basins, that water quality is another selling point for us. Have you had a chance to talk about that with folks?
Sarah, do you want to address that first?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's such a good point, that water quality is huge. If you have paddle trails, you don't want to be paddling in polluted rivers or streams. And you can see that when we went through county by county and highlighted these trails, some of these are paddle trails. We have, for example, we talked about the Hall River. There's, the Eno River in Durham and in Orange County. That's a huge draw. And that's where, when we talk about the environmental benefits of trails, it's not just about drinking water. I think that's what people usually think about when they think water quality, but it's about recreation. You don't want to be recreating in polluted waters, and so that's another one of those areas where it's a win-win-win for protecting water quality and riparian habitats and runoff and erosion and all of that. It's beneficial for the trails and the outdoor recreation aspect, but also for the people that live there in the community. And so I think it's a huge draw, and it's something that we could, moving forward, focus even more on. Chuck, I'll let you add to that.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, Greenways in North Carolina, we sort of established a little bit of an adversarial relationship with DCNR for many years, because the focus was, where the trail was located. The number one pollutant, by the way, in North Carolina is sediment. A lot of people don't know that. And so rightfully, DCNR was concerned about trails along waterways because traffic would involve denuding the soil, and sediment's the number one pollutant. I just have always tried to flip that I think greenways, especially riparian greenways, are the greatest friend that water quality will have. And we need to figure out a way of getting off the topic of, what the trail tread is, because oftentimes, it's 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 feet wide in a riparian area that can be 400, 300 to 400 feet wide, and acres and acres and acres. I'd love to have us form a more beneficial relationship with our state water quality rules and regulations, and where we're trying to go with that, and how greenways become beneficial to that. And it requires some give and take on both sides. But I noted Brett, pointing out the picture of asphalt. A lot of people misunderstand asphalt trails. To me, they're fantastic because we're able to put high levels of traffic on a surface that's capable of withstanding foot traffic, bicycle traffic, wheel traffic, etc. If we were to put that on native soils, the amount of erosion, from that traffic would be severe. So I think we just need to have better, more constructive conversations about the role that greenways play in being beneficial to water quality, and how that can be a really great program activity for our state, just all across our state. And I support everything that Sarah said. I hope that that'll be one of the benefits of the Great Trail State Initiative going forward.
Folks have gone quiet on the questions. I'm going to add one more because it's important to me. What we have found, and I think you're sort of in this position because you are inheriting some really well-established trails. What we have found is that people are very anxious to get connections between trails, and that drives a lot of our efforts as well. Has that been true for you?
Yeah, I'll let Sarah start with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can speak from my work with the East Coast Greenway. Our whole vision is developing this 3,000-mile route that goes north-south, Maine to Florida, pretty focused on that. But so much of our work actually ends up being working with these communities on connections to the East Coast Greenway, because ultimately it's great to have this incredibly long greenway, but how are people going to get there? We can't expect everyone to drive to the trail. You have to be able to easily get from your house to another trail system, and to be able to get around your county, your community with the trail system. So the connections are incredibly important, because a standalone trail is only so valuable. You need it to be connected. And it's important to keep in mind that we often think of trails as just a recreational resource, as, oh, that's where I go to go hiking or bird watching, or that's where I ride my bike. But a lot of folks are using trails for transportation. And so if a standalone trail just goes through the middle of the woods, that's great for recreation. But what about people commuting to work, running errands, kids who want to walk to school? Keeping in mind this transportation network, that's really how we have to think of trails is people want to go long distances just as much as they want to go short distances. And so that's why I think it's incredibly important to focus on the connections and the overall network.
And I think that when Sarah did this map for us, which we needed a graphic right away because people really like to understand graphically, visually, what are we talking about? That has really been helpful to us because the rural counties want to feel connected. And even though that map is largely a concept map, with a lot of concept corridors on it that have yet to be vetted and yet to be built out, the idea that they're going to be connected is really really exciting, and it's one of the biggest issues that was brought up during our meetings with them. Is how would we be connected to the rest of the triangle? What does that connection look like? And especially when you're talking about economic development, the idea that actually folks would come from other parts, more populated areas, out to these rural areas. And spend an afternoon in the town, eat at a restaurant, participate in an activity or program. Those are things that I think are really important when we talk about leveraging that economic development. So having the map showing the interconnected system, as you guys did, I think, Bart, from the very outset with the thread trail vision 15, 16 years ago when it got started, that's been valuable to us so far as well.
Couple minutes left, no more questions. Any denouement from either of you guys to finish us out?
Any final thoughts there, Sarah?
Well, just that I think it's so valuable for all of us to be able to come together and ask these questions of each other and have these conversations. It's so often that we find ourselves, reinventing the wheel, and it's events like this that remind us, oh, these resources are out there. And like Chuck was saying before, we're standing on the shoulders of other people and work that they've done, and really great work too. And so I just really appreciate everyone coming together for this, asking good questions, and having the conversation.
Yep, same here. And I also just want to say that, we're building towards a really great statewide program. And so us getting our act together and joining the regional Greenway focus of the Thread Trail and the Piedmont Legacy Trails, we're grateful for the opportunity to be part of the forum this year and to present our very early vision for the TriangleTrails initiative. We look forward to continuing to coordinate our work with that of the Thread Trail, Bart, and with you and Brett and your entire team, your leadership team, et cetera. Because I think all of this is building towards support of our Great Trails State Initiative. So thanks so much for having us today, for having Sarah and myself, and we're looking forward to participating the rest of the day and watching other presentations.
Thank you, Sarah and Chuck, and we really appreciate all the expertise you're putting into this on behalf of the Triangle and all the people who live there. It's going to be a big, wonderful legacy for them, and you get to say that you helped birth that baby. Thank you very much for presenting to us today, and appreciate all your help and assistance. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.